Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. My name is Juan Londoño and today we are going to discuss 5 resolutions for the new year. Now notice I didn't say 5 New Year resolutions. I said 5 resolutions for the new year. It's a little different because New Year resolutions tend to put us in the frame of mind, first of all, that they're the 1st of January, right? And also that we have to wait till the new year for them. So sometimes we think, we're in the month of May or June and we think, oh, it would be great to get in shape. That's going to be my New Year's resolution for the coming year, right? But there are a few problems with that. The first major problem comes from something that's been studied, and it kind of hints to the fact that if you have trouble starting something today, or if you have trouble starting something tomorrow, or if you have trouble starting something, say, Monday and it's like Thursday, it's going to be that much harder if you have to wait a month, 2 months, or 6 months to get it started. Think about it, right? If I'm having trouble convincing myself that I want to work out, and I say I'm going to start Monday, and then I don't, and then I wait another week and another week, you get complacent, right? But if you're automatically saying I'm going to start this on January 1st, and it's May, oh man, that's just going to let us kind of settle into our bad habits, eating poorly, not working out, feeling lazy and unmotivated. So the best thing to do when we think of something is just to, the following week if we can, right? Now, the time is right. It's the beginning of 2023 if you're watching this video fresh. And I say the time is right because many times, we think of things like in November when it starts approaching the end of the year. We think, what do we want to do the next year that's different from what I've done, right? And because of the holidays and all of the, planning and traveling and cooking and cleaning and work sometimes gets a little complicated that time of year. So with all of that happening in family, right, it's hard to get started in the month of December. So we end up waiting till January 1st, the first week, the first, month, right? And that's okay. That's okay. Because we just thought about those things in November. Waiting a month to start is not that bad because it's difficult to start in December. But if it's February, if it's March, it's still the beginning of the year and we can still set these up as resolutions for the new year. So now back to the topic. What are some good resolutions that we can set aside for ourselves for photography? I came up with 5 and here they are. Number 1, probably the most obvious of all, shoot more. I have a little story. Many times I'll be walking around a grocery store or the gym or wherever, right? And I meet one of the photography students that came through here, through this living room. And because I teach out of the house. And I teach groups of 3 to 5. And I'll talk to them and I'll say, hey, it's great to see you. How's it going? How's your photography going? And many of them will say, probably the Pareto principle here, probably 80% of them will say, well, Juan, I'm simply not shooting enough, right? I take these great vacations. I forget to take my camera because everybody has one of these things now, right? A phone. Or I simply just don't shoot, even on vacation, right? Now, that could be a couple of things. That could be a person that took the class, because I get this, right? People take the class wondering if photography is going to be for them. And maybe photography just isn't for a person like this. They don't take the camera anywhere. They don't shoot enough. It could be that photography just isn't the thing. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. But many times it's just that we screw up our priorities, right? We really do love it, but we don't set time aside for it. So shoot more. Take more trips. Take more international trips if you can. I haven't been able to. I'm going to start soon. If you can't do international trips, it's okay. Do national trips, right? Travel within the United States or whatever country you live in. If even shooting nationally is difficult because I can't get to California or New York, then let me stay here in Georgia, right? Let me stay and travel 2 or 3 hours from my home. On the weekends, maybe stay an extra day, right? The other option is if I can't even do that because of either time or money, or maybe commitment with work or family, maybe just go to your local downtown and go out a Saturday when people are out, do a little street photography when people are walking by eating ice cream and hanging out with their family and friends. If you live near a mountain or a beach, hit those places, right? If you're 30 minutes from a beach, I used to live in Florida, I was 15 minutes from a beach. Hit the beach on a sunset or a sunrise. Hit the mountains on a sunset or a sunrise, right? Just get out. And if you have trouble doing any of this, if you live in a home, in an apartment, get outside and see what you can find early morning, late evening, right? There's so much to shoot, even inside the house. Buy some flowers to make your house look pretty and smell pretty, and then shoot them. I do that all the time. Some of the flowers that I exhibit and sell are flowers that I purchased for the house, and I ended up photographing them with a macro lens. But here's the funny thing. We get out and we shoot and we shoot and we shoot and we shoot. And guess what's going to happen? We're going to say, let's say that we've been shooting for 2 years, right? We've been just taking the camera everywhere. We're going to reach a point where we're getting better and better and better because we're practicing. We're going to reach this plateau. Why? Because of point number 2. And point number 2 is learn more. See, here's the thing. Shooting more helps us become better at the things we already know. Make sense? But how about the things we don't know? Even something as simple as lenses. I've told this story before. People come to me all the time. They've been shooting for 5, 10 years. They have 1 lens or 2 lenses. They don't really need much. And they'll say, "Wow, I'm getting ready to buy my next lens." I'm like, "Oh, cool. I'm excited for you, right? I'm a photographer. I understand this excitement, right? What are you buying?" "Well, I'm buying such and such a lens, right? I need a macro lens." I'm like, "Oh, okay, but you only have this one other lens, right? And you're going to get this? You're not going to have any flexibility. How about this other lens over here? Because it gives you the macro and you have a range." And things that people don't think about, right? Or they'll say, "I love shooting orchids." Or let's say I love shooting some flowers that grow in shade, right? And I'll say, "Okay, cool. That lens is an f5.6 to 8.0. That means it's not very open. And you're going to be shooting in the afternoons, in the mountains, in the shade. Yikes. And the wind moves the flowers. So putting it on a tripod and leaving the lens open for a long time is out of the question. You're going to need a wide lens, a fast lens, right? So maybe like 100 millimeter macro, that's an f2 or f2.8 is a better lens than like a 5.6 or f8. And they'll be honest and they'll say, "I don't really look at those numbers well because I don't really know what they mean." So learn more. There's a lot to learn about photography, about cameras, about lenses, about so many things. Just learn more. Watch videos, read books, anything that we can get our hands on. Talk to people that know, that love to go shoot. Go with them. Just learn more. Number 3, shoot other genres. And that starts with learning about other genres. What are they, right? And then trying them. Okay, weddings is a genre. Pets, children, landscapes, black and white, kind of, right? And all those apply to black and white, but you know what I mean. It's kind of its own thing. Macro, right? There's so many different things. Boudoir, nudes, blah, blah, blah. They go on and on, right? For example, you like doing landscapes. Try some city photography, right? Some street photography. You like doing street photography. Try portraits. Watch a couple videos. What is it that I need to take a good portrait? Is it a special lens? Is it a special camera? Is it just the lighting? What is it, right? And I can guarantee you, say you're a street photographer and you do a little study on portraits and you start shooting your friends, it's even a great idea to give your friends, for example, for their birthday, for the holidays, whatever, you give them a portrait shoot as a gift because they can use it for their LinkedIn profile, their Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, right? Their company profile. It's a great thing. If we're photographers, we can give the gift of photography. That's the beautiful thing. So you take your friend outside and you shoot him. Boy, did that come out wrong. Take him out in the back and shoot him. I do that all the time, but I've never been incarcerated. That's one of the good things about photography. We can take people out back and shoot them and we don't go to jail. So you know what I mean, right? Stay healthy, stay positive. So take your friends and give them a gift, right? And do the portraits. And you're going to learn like, oh my gosh, bokeh is so important here, right? The depth of field concept. Maybe I'm going to apply this to my street photography. Maybe I can start thinking about my macro pictures and start incorporating this bokeh concept, because I've been shooting with too much, bokeh in my flowers, and the front leaf is focused in and everything else is blurred, too abstract. Maybe I want the whole flower to be focused. So I got to think about these things. And you get that from shooting different genres, different types of photography. I can go on and on about how one type of photography will open your mind to other things in another type of photography, but I'll leave that to you. Experiment, play around, whatever you like. Try another genre that doesn't bother you too much. Like, I'm not going to go into pets because I'm not around pets all the time, and so it's not going to be me, but maybe children, right? I have friends that have children, or maybe sports. Follow them to their games and shoot their kids playing sports. There's a lot of things we can get into so that we can learn other types of photography, and then we bring that back to the photography we love, that we're passionate about, and we see how that helps us improve. Point number 4, shoot with different lenses. Maybe different gear. Now you might say, Juan, I have a 24-70, and that acts like many different lenses, right? A 24, a 35, a 50, a 70. Maybe I have all I need. I don't mean that, right? If you have that lens, and you've been shooting it for a year, look in your computer, look on your phone, whatever. Look to see at what range you're doing most of the shooting. Are you shooting mostly wide at 24-35? Are you shooting more in the 50-70? Whatever that is, maybe that's what you want to do next. You want to buy, if you're shooting mostly at the 50-70, buy like a 50 millimeter, a good 50 millimeter, like a 1.4, a little better than a 1.8. And then that's your only lens. And see how that limitation makes you grow as a photographer, because now you have to think a little more to shoot. Now, I wouldn't recommend that if you're paying a cruise for $5,000 going to another country for 12 days, and that's the only lens you take because you're trying to be creative. You're going to be mad at me. You're going to come back and say, Juan, I was in Rome and I couldn't get the whole Colosseum because I took a 50 millimeter and it wasn't wide enough. Well, if you're going to travel all the way to Rome and you're going to be shooting all these different things, yes, you need a little flexibility, right? So I would say, take a couple of different lenses, maybe like a wide angle, a 50 and a 100 if you're going to do primes, and if you're going to do zoom lenses, maybe like a 15-35 and maybe like a 24-70, something like that, right? Maybe like 100 or 70-200. You want variety in those cases because it's an expensive trip. You don't want to miss anything. If you have the room and time to carry a bunch of stuff, then I would say take some primes, take some zooms, and then you can putz around and do whatever fits you, right? But my point here is learn to shoot with different lenses, especially if you're already inclined to shoot a particular style, right? Zoom, telephoto, for example, right? If you're shooting a 70-200 and you're always at the 150-200, maybe what you need is a really good 200 millimeter lens. And if you're shooting birds, for example, right? Like a fast 200 millimeter, like a 2.8, oh my gosh, it's an expensive lens, but you're going to be in heaven. And then last but not least, and there are other things here, right? Feel free to put it in the comments if you can think of something that, like, Juan, you missed this one. This is a really good one, right? You can get into all kinds of topics here. And I picked 5. 5 is a nice number. It keeps the video short, but investigate new gear, right? Be up to date on what is coming out. Subscribe to a magazine. There you go, right? Subscribe. There are some really good photography magazines. Maybe I'll do a video on that next, but some just blow me away, right? Join a photography club of some kind, right? PPA, APA, there are so many. Those are good resolutions, right? Because then you start getting articles and reading and participating and competing and going to different conferences. So all of that is cool, but I'm keeping it to those simple 5. So here's point number 5. Study other forms of art. What does that do? What does it do that I study painting, sculpting, right? It opens up your mind and it teaches us to see things differently. So what are they, right? Well, sculpting, painting, drawing, mixed media, there's all kinds of things, right? And even things that aren't traditional. People do all kinds of stuff with construction materials and all kinds of, with bolts and screws, and Study other forms of art. It's going to open your mind. So for example, I'm studying sculptures and I go to see a sculpture museum. Guess what becomes important to me? Depth, dimension, texture becomes important, right? Things like that all of a sudden matter. And now when I'm taking my pictures, they're not just flat. They're not just people and buildings. And they're like, ooh, brick versus glass. Textures, right? All of those contrasts become important. I started doing that years back, right? Walking around New York City. I started realizing, look at this, an old building from like the 30s and a brand new building made out of glass. And the other one's all brick. What a cool edge shot. I can get a little bit of both and a person walking right between them instead of getting all glass and a person walking. I mean, it all has a purpose. There's nothing wrong with either one of those, right? But my point is, it opens up your mind. Or you study drawing, right, with say charcoal, right, and you look at works that people have done, you know, masterworks with charcoal and pencil. Guess what becomes important all of a sudden? The different shades of gray, the darks and the lights, and all of a sudden, your black and white photography takes on a whole new life because you don't just take a picture and convert it to black and white. Now you start saying, I'm imagining a person doing this with a sketch. And how would they make this look? It's too contrasty. They wouldn't have done that. And then you start playing with the sliders and you end up with something beautiful, right? So it opens up our mind, right? We have to learn about what other people are doing. And today it's easier than ever. You pick up this device and you can, for free, you can take like hours and hours of education on a particular type of art form. And then you can go to the museum, your local museum, which most of them are donation or $10, no more than $10 to get in, and spend the whole day looking at stuff, right? So that is point number 5. And if that's not good enough, if you're shooting people and you've done a little bit of fashion and you work with, say, I work with makeup artists, hairstylists, I need to understand, and I wrote it here, right? I need to understand interior decorating. I need to understand hair, makeup. I need to understand fashion. I need to understand definitely fashion, right? Because first of all, I have to dress myself. And I know people that pretend that they don't care about fashion. And they'll convince themselves that it's not important to them. Well, guess what? If you're trying to move up in this world, anyway, the world we live in, to some degree or any degree, then this matters, right? You have to go into the office looking decent, and matching matters. And there's nothing better than buying clothing that's well made and putting it on and feeling good about yourself and smelling good. And this page, I was wondering if it was visible, but it's a great feeling, right? You feel good about yourself and you know people are smelling and observing and you get compliments. Let's not pretend that it doesn't matter. It matters, right? Now, it matters less to some people than others, but it's important, right? To some degree. And we need to understand that. And when you're doing photography and you're photographing people in places, studying architecture is important, right? All of these things matter. So let's keep our minds open. Let's read a little. Let's study a little. Always learn. That is it for today. That is the wrap-up. 5 things that we can look forward to the new year in photography. I hope this was helpful. Like I said, there are other things, right? Look into new gear, some money to spend. There are so many other things we can talk about, but 5 simple ones that we sometimes don't do enough of. I hope this sparked a little thought, and I wish you the best new year ever. Whether you're watching this in 2023 or 2030, it doesn't matter, assuming that this channel is still around. Best of luck with all your resolutions, with your health, with your finance, with your love, with your spirituality, with anything that you enjoy. I love you guys, and I want you to keep coming back for more. I'm going to continue to make videos this year. I'm excited. I have a whole bunch of new topics. I started a whole bunch of product design, product reviews that I never finished in 2022, which I'm going to start rolling out soon. So, from the bottom of my heart, see you next time. Ciao for now.